Hare Krishna. Thank you all for joining. Right, let's make a start with Radha Madhav. Hope you're all well. Jai Radha Madhava, Jai Kunj Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunj Bihari, Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha, Jaya Giravardhari, Gopi Jana Vallabha, Jaya Giravardhari, Shodanandan Vraji Jana Ranjana, Shodanandan Vrajjana Ranjana, Yamuna Tirvanchari, Jai Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunj Bihari, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Agyan Timirandasya Gyan Anjana Shalakya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Nama Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Ritam Tam Sajim Sadvaitam Savadutam Krishna Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kant Radha Kant Namastute Tapta Kanchan Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sutadevi Pranmami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatu Brihascha Kirpa Sindhuvevacha Paditana Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo 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 Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvichesha Shunyavadi Paschati Desatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasti Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Mukham Kroti Vachalam Pangum Langyate Girim Yat Kirpataham Vandeshin Gurundin Taranam Paramananda Madham Shirtaneshram Hari Om Tassat Narayan Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Sasvityasam Tato Jemaduriyat Nasta Bresha Abdurishu Nitamavsya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Neshtaki Hare Krishna. So just checking what we were discussing last time. So we're on verses, we did verses 14 to 15, and we didn't quite get to 16, which we will do today. And we said that devotion service is best and is happily performed and destroys the seeds of sins and desires. And Bhagwan is the highest form, Satchit and Ananda. Love for Krishna turns to lust, touched by material energy, and devotion service can destroy lust. And so all sounds very familiar because that's from before. So last time is saying that you can worship the Lord in his Archa Vigraha form or Virat Root, depending on your consciousness, depending on the state where you are. You find a lot, actually this Virat Roop, you find a lot of people, they tend to think they are connected to the universe. You know, everything, the universe is alive, it's conscious, and things are happening, you know, through the universe. The universe is controlling everything, and that the universe is made of the same materials as we are. So we are considered part of that universe. You know, we are the universe in a minute way. And there's the bigger universe. Even in the Indian Bollywood movies, you know, they're talking about, is it Kainath? Kainath will do this for you, and Kainath will do that for you. You know, they have these dialogues.
Whatever you put in the universe will come back to you.
Yeah, whatever you put in the universe will be returned to you. So, you know, there is this big conception about the universe that, you know, there's the universe, you're in connection with the universe, or if you are in connection with the universe, you know, it's breathing, it's alive, and it sort of sorts everything out for you, which in a way is okay, because you recognize that there's something bigger than just yourself. Just like Mayavadis saying that we are God. At least you think there's something bigger, and we're just a little part of that bigger manifestation. So, you know, in a way, Krishna recognizes that, and he's okay with it. You know, so that's where you want to start. At least you realize that there's something above you, so that's okay. So because at least you're worshipping Krishna in the right direction. You're not quite there, but you're worshipping him in the right direction. And but as we said, the best is two-hand form, and always think of Krishna. Even it's like while we're serving, or you know, or we are proposing something for Krishna, or you know, we are what would you say, that planning something for Krishna, you know, at least, yeah. So there's so many ways we can think of Krishna throughout the day. You know, it doesn't have to be just like all the time thinking, you know, of the Leelas and things like that. It doesn't have to be. There's many other ways we can think of Krishna just by following Dharma throughout the day, Vedic principles. We are thinking of Krishna. Okay, right, yeah. So that was last time. Now on 216. Okay, so Mana Swabuddhya Malaya Niyamya Kshetragya etam ninayattam atmani atmanam atmani abruddhya dhiro labdo pashanti virmat krityat. So manha, the mind, swabuddhya, by his own intelligence, amlaya, unalloyed, niyamya, or niyam, like niyamya, by regulating, kshetragya, onto the living entity, etam, all of them, niniyat, merge them, that, atmani, the self, atmanam, the self, atmani, in the super self, avruddhya, being locked up, dirha, the fully satisfied, labdha, upshanitahi, one who has attained full bliss, Veer Mat ceases from Krityat, all other activities. Thereafter, the yogi should merge his mind by his unalloyed intelligence into the living entity, and then merge the living entity into the super self. So let's read that again. Thereafter, the yogi should merge his mind by his unalloyed intelligence into the living entity, and then merge the living entity into the super self. And by doing this, the fully satisfied living entity becomes situated in the supreme stage of satisfaction, so that it ceases from all other activities. So Srila Prabhupada explains that the functions on the mind are thinking, feeling and willing. When the mind is materialistic or absorbed in material contact, it acts for material advancement of knowledge, or acts for material advancement of knowledge, destructively ending in discovery of nuclear weapons. So it's amazing what we're capable of. Wherever you apply our mind, that's you will achieve the highest position. But some are destructive, some are constructive. But when the mind acts under spiritual urge, it acts wonderfully for going back home, back to Godhead, for life in complete bliss and eternity. So thereafter, the mind has to be manipulated by good and unalloyed intelligence. Perfect intelligence is to render service unto the Lord. One should be intelligent enough to understand that the living being is in all circumstances a servant of the circumstances. Every living being is serving the dictates of desire, anger, lust, illusion, insanity, and enviness. So that's the 6 defective problems that we have, all materially affected. But even while executing such dictations of different temperaments, he is perpetually unhappy. When one actually feels this and turns his intelligence to inquiring about it from the right sources, he gets the information of the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Instead of serving materially for the above mentioned different humors of the body, the living entity's intelligence then becomes freed from the unhappy illusion of materialistic temperament, and thus by unalloyed intelligence, which is means spiritual intelligence, right? The mind is brought into the service of the Lord. The Lord and His service are identical, being on the absolute plane. Therefore, the unalloyed intelligence and the mind are merged into the Lord, and thus the living entity does not remain a seer himself, but becomes seen by the Lord transcendentally. When the living entity is directly seen by the Lord dictates to him to act according to his desire. And when the living entity follows him perfectly, the living entity ceases to discharge any other duty for his illusionary satisfaction. In his pure unalloyed state, the living being attains the stage of full bliss, labdo pashanti, and ceases all material hankerings. So instead of our own desires, if we can work on what Krishna wants, what his desires are, if our desires and Krishna's desires become one, not that we get Krishna to have his desires same as us, we dovetail our desires to Krishna's desires, can have one. And also, as I was saying, that follow him perfectly, he discharge any of the duty for his illusory satisfaction. So our energy is utilized in the service of the Lord. And as I was saying last time, that we do seem to do that, but just the subtle body, the subtle energy is sometimes difficult to control. The mind, intelligence, and the ego tends to run a little bit wild, and we find that difficult to control. We cannot, even when we are now, we're listening to the class and I'm speaking, but the mind does tend to even then drifts off somewhere. When doing deity service earlier on, you're saying the prayers and everything, and you're going through the process, but your mind is again somewhere else. Seems to be difficult to keep the mind present. Very, very difficult. And thus we got to work on both the gross and the subtle. I mean, some people can't even do the gross, right? And I just say to them, look, pray that Krishna helps you to make time, because something always comes up. They tell me that something always comes up every time they want to go to the temple, they want to go to a program, they want to join a kirtan, something comes up. So or their job situation is such that they don't have time. We can only pray, because all these things will be left behind. End of the day, we didn't take birth just to work. We need to work to keep body and mind together, keep shelter, food and shelter, do our duties. But that is not the goal or the ultimate goal of life. There is something beyond that, and we need to, make some time. If we're not making it, then we pray to Krishna that please help us to, so things, please intervene that, we can do both, in other words. So just to recap, intelligence should be used to control the mind and senses, to progress, not to destroy our bhakti. The mind is controlled by the intelligence. The soul in the conditioned state can only desire. Thinking, feeling and willing should be done by the soul. That's our original state. Thinking, feeling, willing is originally done by the soul, but with the material contamination, now the mind takes over, because we start listening to the mind. But instead it's done by the mind. Therefore the soul needs to change desire by good association. In the spiritual world, the soul is thinking, feeling and willing. So the soul makes the mind, just like time is a devotee of the Lord. It follows Lord's. If Lord wants it to go fast, it will go fast. The Lord wants it to go slow, it will go slow. So the time has no authority in the spiritual world like it does here in the material world. It has its duty, and accordingly it will destroy everything, devour everything, and also new beginnings with time as well. So, but in the spiritual world, it doesn't have that such control. Similarly with the mind doesn't have control in the spiritual world. The soul is in charge, the spiritual intelligence is in charge. So the thinking, feeling, willing is done by the soul. It takes over the thinking, the feeling, and then the willing is done by the soul. And that's what we're trying to achieve here. Not give control to the mind. We want to be in control. The soul wants to be in control. And that says that it comes by good association. Other people doing. 17. Na yatra kalo nimisham para prabhu kuto nu deva jagtam ya ishre na yatra sattvam na rajas tamascha na vai vikaro na mahan pradhanam. So not yatra, wherein kalha, destructive time, animisham, of the heavenly demigods, paraha, superior, prabhu, the controller, kutaha, where is there, nu, certainly, devaha, the demigods, jagatam, the mundane creatures, ye those, ishre, rules, na not yatra, therein, sattvam, mundane goodness, na no rajaha, mundane passion, tamha, mundane ignorance, cha also, na no way, certainly, vikaraha, transformation, na no mahan, the material causal ocean, and pradhanam is the material nature. So in that transcendental state of labdo pashanti, there is no supremacy of devastating time, which controls even the celestial demigods who are empowered to rule over mundane creatures. So what I was saying earlier, it's coming up now. And what to speak of the demigods themselves? Nor is there the mode of material goodness, no passion, no ignorance, nor even the false ego, nor the material causal ocean, nor the material nature. So there's nothing material in the spiritual world, right? There's no three modes. There is no control of time, and there's no false ego, no ignorance. Well, that's part of the three modes. So devastating time, which controls in the celestial demigods by its manifestation of past, present, and future, does not act on the transcendental plane. The influence time is exhibited by the symptoms of birth, death, old age, and disease. And these four principles of material conditions are present everywhere in any part of the material cosmos, up to the planet Brahmalok, so all the way to the top, where the duration of life of the inhabitants appears to us to be fabulous. Insurmountable time even brings about the death of Brahma eventually. So what to speak of other demigods like Indra, Chandra, Surya, Vayu, and Varun? The astronomical influence directed by the different demigods over mundane creatures is also conspicuous by its absence. In material existence, the living entities are afraid of satanic influence, but for a devotee on the transcendental plane, there is no such fear at all. The living entities change their material bodies in different shapes and forms under the influence of different modes of material nature. But in the transcendental state, the devotee is gunatit, or above the material modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Thus, the false ego of I am the Lord of all I survey does not arise there, because everything we're doing is through the three modes of nature. These three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance. It's like they're like filters. Whichever mode you're seeing through, that's what you're seeing. And I think they're like, is it white for goodness and red for ignorance? Passion is red, and ignorance is black. So yeah, so like that. So whatever filter we're seeing through, that's how we're seeing. But we're still seeing through a filter. We're not seeing directly. And this is a thing. I'm the Lord of all I survey. That's like mode of passion and ignorance. But when there's no modes, then we know reality as it is, not through the eyes of the modes. In the material world, the false ego of the living being trying to load it over the material world is something like the moths falling in a blazing fire. The moth is captivated by the glaring beauty of the fire, and when he comes to enjoy it, the blazing fire consumes him. In the transcendental state, the living being is pure in his consciousness, and as such, he has no false ego to load it over the material nature. Rather, his pure consciousness directs him to surrender unto the Supreme Lord. As stated in the Bhagavad-Gita 7:19, Vasudheva Sarmiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. All this indicates that in the transcendental state there is neither material creation nor the causal ocean for material nature. The above mentioned states of air is factual on the transcendental plane, but is factually revealed in a transcendentalist knowledge of the advanced state of pure consciousness. Such transcendentalists are of two types, namely the impersonalists and the devotees. For the impersonalists, the ultimate goal or destination is the Brahmjyoti of the spiritual sky, but for the devotees, the ultimate goal is the Vaikuntha planets. And Goloka Vrindavan is also considered a Vaikuntha planet because there is no distress. Vaikuntha means no distress, and it's the highest Vaikuntha planet. The devotees experience the above mentioned state of affairs by attainment of spiritual forms for activity in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. But the impersonalist, because of his neglecting the association of the Lord, does not develop a spiritual body for spiritual activity, but remains a spiritual spark only, merged in the effulgent spiritual rays of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, it's showing or mentioned that after all the effort, and these impersonalists, they have to put a lot more effort in to get to that stage. Even after all that, you didn't really get any service, because our connection with the Lord is through service, right? Whether it's to whichever rasa we belong to, we're still serving. Every rasa is serving. So our connection with the Lord is through service, and so even after all that, you just remain with a spark now, right? So you get rid of your material body, but you just remain a spark. So what was the point? Because that spark will eventually become bored and come back again. The Lord is a full-fledged form of eternity, bliss and knowledge, but the formless Brahmajyoti is simply eternity and knowledge. There's some bliss, but not much bliss as when we are in connection with the Lord. The Vaikuntha planets are also forms of eternity, bliss and knowledge, and therefore the devotees of the Lord who are admitted into the abode of the Lord also get bodies of eternity, bliss and knowledge. As such, there is no difference between one and another. The Lord's abode, name, fame, Acharya, etc. are of the same transcendental quality, and how this transcendental quality differs from the material world is explained herewith in this verse. In the Bhagavad-Gita, 3 principal subjects have been explained by Lord Shri Krishna: Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. But one can reach the Vaikuntha planets by the practice of Bhakti Yoga only. Otherwise you end up, by Jnana Yoga, just end up in the Brahmajyoti. And by Karma Yoga, you probably be back here. The other two are incompetent in helping one reach the Vaikunthas, lokas. Although they can, however, conveniently take one to the effulgent Brahmajyoti as described above. Okay. 17. So we need to become free from the influence of time, which has 4 symptoms of birth, death, old age and disease. In the effulgence merging in the Brahmajyoti, you feel something is missing. This is a problem. You'll get there, but then you think, something just doesn't feel right. There's something still lacking. You feel some lack. Just like we feel something missing in the material world. Yeah, so as we are happy for some time, then we are sad. We just swapping around this day and this night. And still there's some kind of void inside us. There's something is not quite right. And that's the reason we came to Krishna consciousness. We're thinking, what am I doing? I'm just waking up, going to work, eating in the meantime, then sleeping, waking up. It's just it's like a rat race. And what's this human body given to me for on this purpose only? There has to be some higher purpose to it. Because the animals are doing the same thing. They wake up in the morning, they're going round and round. The birds are going looking for food all day long, and then things go quiet in the evening. Like Srila Prabhupada said, eating, sleeping, mating, defending. That's just animal behavior, and we just doing what the animals are doing. Then we really not any better. So for the humans, there has to be something higher to achieve, and that's what we were looking for. That's why we came to Krishna consciousness. Because yes, this makes sense. This is where it's going. Yes. So you feel something is missing, just like we feel something missing in the material world. This is because there is no service of Krishna, no Ananda, and no bliss. So our soul, which we are, the little spark, material body just a vehicle. Our soul needs service of Krishna to be happy, whether the service is here in the material world or the service is there in the spiritual world. We need service. And you might say, well, I'm serving, but I'm still not happy. This is because we are still contaminated. We are torn between our material senses and serving Krishna. Material senses are rebelling. The mind is rebelling. So what are you doing? You don't care for us anymore. used to give us a lot of fun one time, but now you just neglect us and you're just serving Krishna. And so, we all suffer from that problem, but you got to keep at it, because it's because of the material contamination. We feel like that. And once, as is mentioned here, you purify your consciousness, then you'll be more attracted to Krishna, and the happiness will be from there, not from stimulating our material senses.
And Maya is constantly testing you.
The Maya is always there waiting for you to become
Attack
weak.
you.
Become weak. When you're weak, it will definitely attack you. Okay, let's do 18. Param padam vishvanam amananti dat jane tinateti atad utsi srikshvaha visrajya doratamyam ananya sohirda hirido paghuyar padam pade pade. So param, the supreme padam, the supreme padam situation, Vaishnavam, in relation with the personality Godhead, Amananti, do they know that yat which, na iti, not this, na iti, not this, iti, thus, atat, godless, utsis sarikshvaha, those who desire to avoid, visarjya, giving it up completely, doratmayam, perplexities, ananya, absolutely, surhada, in goodwill, hirida, upaguha, taking them into his heart, araha, that which is only worshipable, padam, lotus feet, pade pade, at every moment. So the transcendentalists desire to avoid everything godless, for they know the supreme situation in which everything is related with the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Therefore, a pure devotee who is in absolute harmony with the Lord does not create perplexities, but worships the lotus feet of the Lord at every moment, taking them into his heart. So the Bhagavad-Gita Madham, or my board, is mentioned several times, and according to the version of the Supreme Personality Godhead Sri Krishna, there exists the unlimited spiritual sky, wherein the planets are called Vaikuntha, so the abode of the Personality Godhead. In that sky, which is far, far beyond the material sky, and is sevenfold coverings, there is no need of the sun or the moon, nor is there necessity of electricity for illumination, because the planets are self-illuminating and more brilliant than the material suns. Pure devotees of the Lord are absolutely in harmony with the Personality Godhead, or in other words, they always think of the Lord as their only dependable friend and well-wisher. They do not care for any mundane creature up to the status of Brahma, the Lord of the universe. Only they can definitely have a clear vision of the Vaikuntha planets. Such pure devotees, being perfectly directed by the Supreme Lord, do not create any artificial perplexities in the matter of transcendental understanding by wasting time in discussing what is Brahman and what is non-Brahman or Maya, nor do they falsely think of themselves as one with the Lord, or argue that there is no existence of the Lord separately, or that there is no God at all, or that living beings are themselves God, or that when God incarnates himself, he assumes a material body. So these are the arguments we have here in the material world, right? People are discussing these topics. Okay, and or that there is no God at all, that living beings are themselves God, or that when God incarnates himself, he assumes a material body, nor do they concern themselves with many obscure speculative theories, which are in actuality so many stumbling blocks on the path of transcendental understanding. So speculation is not recommended, especially obscure speculation. Apart from the class of impersonalists or non-devotees, there are also classes who pose themselves as devotees of the Lord, but at heart maintain the idea of salvation by becoming one with the impersonal Brahman. They wrongly manufacture their own way of devotional service by open debauchery and mislead others who are simpletons or devotees like themselves. All these non-devotees and debauchees are, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti, duratmas or crooked souls in the dress of Mahatmas or great souls. Such non-devotees and debauchees are completely excluded from the list of transcendental lists by the presentation of this particular verse by Shukadev Goswami. So the Vaikuntha planets are factually the supreme residential places called the Parampadam, sorry. The impersonal Brahmjyoti is also called the Parampadam due to its being the rays of the Vaikuntha planets. As the sun rays are the rays of the sun. So in the Bhagavad-Gita 14.27 it is clearly said that the impersonal Brahmjyoti rests on the person of the Lord, and because everything rests on the Brahmjyoti directly and indirectly, everything generated from the Lord, everything rests on Him, and after inhalation everything is merged in Him only. Therefore nothing is independent of Him. A pure devotee of the Lord no longer wastes valuable time in discriminating the Brahman from non-Brahman, because he knows perfectly well that the Lord Par Brahma, by his Brahman energy, is interwoven in everything, and thus everything is looked upon by a devotee as the property of the Lord. The devotee tries to engage everything in his service and does not create perplexities by falsely lording it over the creation of the Lord. He is so faithful that he engages himself as well as everything else in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. In everything, the devotees see the Lord, and he sees everything in the Lord. The specific disturbance created by the Duratma or crooked soul is due to his maintaining that the transcendental form of the Lord is something material. But you see, whatever religion people create, other people follow so easily. There will always be a group of people who are happy to follow it, or who are like-minded to them. So, oh yeah, this is what it is, and they follow it. Just like political parties, you can make up any political party, and then you'll get followers. You just have to be convincing enough, and there's people ready to follow you without understanding the reality, and sometimes we just don't know what's right and wrong. Even adults, we don't know what's right and wrong. We just follow blindly because it just seems like a good idea, and we follow it. This is why it's recommended that we follow Vedic principles and we follow Vedic instructions, because we get deluded very easily, misled very easily. So these 16, 17, 18, 3 verses, there actually been a big comparison between spiritual world, spiritual life, material world, material life. So it's anything to add. We move through the different stages of advancement. At the higher stage, the basic knowledge is already realized, so not discussed. One sees everything as the property of the Lord. The proprietor should enjoy his property. So really, you've got to think about Krishna and apply everything in his service, because the proprietor should enjoy his property, whereas we try to enjoy it for our gratification. We can use it, we are the children of God, we can use it, but up to a certain level. We get carried away with using, we overuse his facilities, and then then there's a punishment for that. If we over endeavor, over indulge, then we pay the price. So everything is there. This material world was created for our purpose, but we have a quota. There's a certain amount of uses. Don't use more than necessary. That's the key. So thank you so much, and let's get some discussions going. Hare Krishna. Okay, Pundikaks Prabhu, Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Prabhuji.
Right.
These 3 verses are like entire Bhagavatam we are hearing. I felt like that, especially the 18th one. I think I need to take a printout and read it a couple of times to understand it more better. But thank you, Prabhuji. So as we, as Prabhupada often mentioned about the analogy of chariot, like body being the chariot, and senses being the horse, brains being the mind, intelligence being the driver. So if the driver is not proper, then the mind is not engaged properly, and the horses will go in all directions. So finally, in the material world, we try to become happy by various things, but ultimately we get frustrated. And then finally, when we realize that it's not in my hand, then we turn to a right source. So Krishna affectionately gave us spiritual master Vedic scriptures, and finally, when we turn to Vedic scriptures, then we can understand the reality and engage in transcendental loving service of the Lord. So the mind can be either engaged in spiritual or material. As we understand, material will keep you bind to this material world, whereas spirituality will help you to return back home, back to Godhead one day, at least, when the intelligence is purified. And the second verse says talks about time, because time is the ultimate controller, and everything is bound by time. Even Brahma's lifetime is very huge, like 4.32 billion years, I think, or 8 point something. So even his life is not that unlimited. He has got his own time. So I was thinking about the pastime of Bhishma Dev. Bhishma Dev has got Ichamrichu. So whenever he wants, he can leave the body. But if somebody gets that boon, and he is not thinking of leaving the body, that nature will force you, because that is the law of material nature. If whatever is created, that has to be destroyed as well. So if even though if you don't want to leave the body, but nature will force you to think about leaving the body by giving you natural calamities 100%. But Bhishma Dev is a pure devotee, so he understood that this is the right time to leave his body in front of Lord Krishna in the battlefield. And that's why he was able to, because he's a pure devotee, he was able to disclose how he can be killed as well. When Yudhishthira Maharaj approached him, asking him, Bhishma Dev, we can't defeat them until you are there. And he kindly told them that what is the solution for him to kill him as well. But he is leaving his body in presence of Krishna, and he was waiting for that moment. And that is so wonderful. And impersonalist, or I mean, again, devotees are again two kinds, like impersonalist and personalist. So impersonalist who believe in Brahma Jyoti, but as we understand from Bhagavad-Gita, again, Abrahma Bhuna Loka Punaravarto Arjuna. So even though you reach the highest planet, if you're not connected to Bhakti Krishna in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, you will get frustrated, and because you like varieties, and finally you will come down again, because the material world is the only place where you can get that connection to Supreme Lord. So even though you reach highest planet, you have to come down and perform bhakti. That's all, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Kiran Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, the world at the moment is focused on 22 men kicking a bag of wind around, putting something in a net. They're chasing this elusive thing called the World Cup. We're trying to chase something more elusive than that, the celestial cup. And the Vaikuntha cup is not easy to attain, because it requires a lot of efforts, a lot of training. And day in, day out, we're going through training the mind, the intelligence, and the senses, so that we are conditioned to not be influenced by Maya, because Maya will take us away from the training. And Maya is so clever that even the greatest of devotees can be sidetracked from going and picking up the Shastra. I will do it tomorrow. It's time. Time stands still for nobody. Time is the essence of God. The only place we can escape time will be when we're in the celestial world. There's no concept of time. Here, the sands of time are ticking away as we speak. And as we speak, we're in that Groundhog Day.
Mhm.
It just seems like yesterday, oh, I did this, and the day before, and the day before. There's a movie called Groundhog Day, and it's like the same clock, the same time, the same breakfast, the same this, the same that. It's a deja vu. This deja vu and this Groundhog Day is only broken by Bhagavatam and by the Shastra. And this Shastra and the Bhagavatam will release us. Western philosophies talk of, I want to be free. What do they want to be free of? One relationship after another, one car after another, one home after another. We want to be free of a greater thing. And the greatest thing is to be free of material gratification. And that is the detachment we're seeking. And that is the freedom that the Bhagavatam and Krishna offers us. He offering us a way back home. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah. Now, I just thinking also, it's hard to imagine, the Vaikuntha planets now. Like, there is no anxiety, as material anxiety anyway, and no problems, and there's no, health issues there, and there's no question of time, like you mentioned that, we have to be mindful of the time all the time, whatever we're doing. We have to be mindful of the time. When we're waking up, when we're sleeping, when we take our lunch, breakfast, whatever, and everything works around around time, and there is no concept of time. So very difficult for us to digest that something like that is possible. But this is the material world, and it's just a concept. This is not reality. It's just a concept, a model that's given to us to work within, but the reality is totally something else. Thank you, Prabhu. Vijay Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, so I was thinking that, the modes are always constantly in battle, and for supremacy, one or the other. I was thinking also that it seems that there's also competition between the mind and intelligence and the soul as well. That I hadn't really realized that the soul is also there. The soul needs to do seva, as you said, and wants to do so. The soul should be doing the thinking, feeling, and willing, and not the mind. So we have to keep on challenging this mind, which overtakes us and controls us all the time. So that's such a difficult thing, because while it's controlling you, you're not aware of it even at times. So it's a wonderful illusion that it's doing something, and you're in the middle of something, but you don't even realize it's your mind that's doing it, and whereas it shouldn't be. Quite confusing, I think, there. But also, I mean, we do sometimes read that the soul is like covered at the moment, and so it's not being used. But here, I'm thinking the soul should be at the top, just like in the three modes. Goodness, if you're going to have one of the modes, then goodness should be at the top. So like that, should the soul be at the top, between the mind and intelligence? Just wondering. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, very good point, Prabhu. This is why you say Jiva Jyako. Who's Jiva? The soul. It's like dormant. It needs to wake up to the reality. And the mind has taken over, the illusory energy has taken over. The soul is like is in the carriage, sleeping, basically. And there's the mind is running the show, running the senses wild, as Pundikaks Prabhu mentioned earlier. So it's like that, and so nobody can blame us thinking that we are the mind, because the mind is in control here. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That is the soul needs to wake up and take charge. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Srita Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. From what we read today, it seems like we have to fully focus on the Lord and give up all our material desires. And then we can rise above from the material modes and stop trying to control the material world. And instead, become fully devoted to Krishna. But in spiritual world, like you said, there is no control of time. And there is no modes of in the spiritual world, like goodness, passion, and ignorance. There's no control there. But according to this, like I say, impersonalists, the ultimate goal is, for them, is Brahmajyoti of the spiritual sky. But for the devotees, ultimate goal is going to Vaikuntha planets. And in Bhagavad-Gita, like Lord Krishna explained, namely like Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, or Bhakti Yoga. But one can reach to Vaikuntha planets by the practice of Bhakti Yoga. That's all, Prabhuji. Only Bhakti Yoga.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, what you mentioned about giving up. I mean, like Srila Prabhupada says that we can have the grastas are allowed some gratification, because for one, the whole family might not be at the same level. And then also there's also children involved, like they're not ready for, maybe not ready for bhakti. And so there's some gratification allowed within the family, from the head to the children, so they can enjoy something together. But the idea is like not to be attached to, especially people. If you just for example, there's a parents, they are doing Krishna consciousness. We're doing it, some gratification, just keep family happy, family together, enjoy some time together. But as followers of Krishna consciousness, we should not be attached to sense gratification, because what happens, because sense gratification, it gives us instant results, and then we sort of feel that this is better because we had some fun there very quickly. Whereas in the spiritual gratification, it takes time, right? There's purification involved. So the material gratification seems to be, a bit more instant. So we find that more enjoyable. But what happens then is that if you keep enjoying materially, then you sort of move yourself away. You don't even realize it, that you move yourself away from the spiritual life, because you think, this is a better deal. We're looking for a deal, right? So this is a better deal than spirituality. We're not really getting any rasa from there. Let's do this, or maybe we can do next life, or later on in life. So like that, we're looking for the easier option where there's more fun. But at the same time, we get bonded, to material energy. So yeah, I think this is where the unalloyed intelligence comes in. That we have to sort of keep reminding ourselves that although it's instant fun, but it's not a good idea, because it just takes us away from Krishna, and that's the ultimate goal. And this is just illusion, this, and there's only so much we can enjoy anyway. We get tired, we get bored after a while, then we have to take a break for a few days, and then we go back doing the same nonsense again. It's an illusion, right? We think it's fun, it's happiness, but we're just fooling ourselves that it's not permanent fun, and it's taking us in the wrong direction. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhu, for explanation. Thank you.
So nice, yeah.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ajay Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Yes, this is the issue, the material contamination. So many lifetimes, so much previous desires, previous sins, previous issues. It's all been so much contamination that you've come to accept whatever miseries you're facing, you accept as normal. The idea that maybe there's something wrong or taken away, sometimes it's forgotten. Even if you have come to bhakti, you can, you can slip into bad habits that have, that need to be dealt with. And that's the thing with these verses explaining that is this the impersonal way, whether it's a yogi or jnani, it's very difficult, and it doesn't give the same top result as bhakti does. Yet for some, because the idea that the better way can be more straightforward, it seems to be hard for people to accept at times. It doesn't have to, Krishna doesn't actually want you to be away from him as such. He wants you to be, come back to Godhead. Sometimes people can't. There is a way to do something. It just needs a bit of faith, it needs a bit of effort, and you need to understand that it might not happen straight away, but Krishna wants you to learn how to depend on him. That's kind of after kind of the hard part, actually, that learning to actually really depend on Krishna and understanding that you can't do it all yourself. There is that mercy element there. If you can come to rely on Krishna, then Krishna will, Krishna is always trying to bring you closer to him. You just have to be willing to actually accept that things will be done on Krishna's terms, not your terms. And that can be frustrating at times because you can be trying very hard to advance, and sometimes you might feel your progress is being checked at times. Sometimes due to maybe some pride perhaps you did, or sometimes just Krishna testing you. But that's not say that everything needs to be seen like, oh, it's not going anywhere, or I can't. Why isn't it happening better? It's just, that's how your journey is at the moment. There's tests along the way, but if you can get to the point where you can depend on Krishna, then these tests become part of the enjoyment. So that's part of the journey. Just Krishna, Krishna. Sometimes he takes you one way, sometimes takes you another way. There's a real joy there when you come to rely on Krishna and his great devotees, as opposed to try and fight what is ultimately his desire for you. And so we just take to Krishna's mercy, take to the shelter of his lotus feet, and just continue with your journey. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, very good point. Yeah, what I do, I have a constant dialogue with the Lord. Sometimes he tests you too much. Say, Krishna, I can't do this, right? If you want me to do this, then you got to make it be better, and then it becomes better. Things sort themselves out. You find something, obstacles removed, because you say, Krishna, I'm trying to do this for you, but why is this coming in the way? Please, help me. And so constant dialogue helps me. I think it's worth a try. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, everyone. My pranams to all of you. Yes, that is why we are told by the great speakers, when we hear them, they say that Krishna is telling us that, and even Prabhupada also repeats in the purports, that stay in tune with the Paramatma in yourself. People are looking for everything out there, happiness, everything, starting from happiness, coming down to distress, which is self-manifested, because when you're looking for too much happiness, you're going to get distressed, because we are not Bhagwans that we are going to be having good times all the time. Like Bhagwan can be enjoying even the fights also when he comes to the Leelas here. We can't do that. And this is what happened in Golok Vrindavan. We became envious of Lord. That we hadn't have to do anything there. Not even the process of digestion was to be done out by bodies, because there was no bodies, there were spiritual bodies, just like Krishna's. But still, look at the irony that the souls, even in the spiritual form, they got bored and came here. So it's a catch-22 situation. We have been given the best of the facilities we have been given the retrial, birth after birth, as souls. That okay, if you can, you will be given parole, or you will be given the, quick entry into the escape, into the freedom, if you are able to do this. So even after hearing classes after classes, discussions after discussions, we finished the Sangha here, and we know our mind is ready to take over. Mind says, thank God, this is over. Now I'm going to hammer you. So I was listening to a class, beautiful class, or little sermon, you can say, that if you are put in a difficult situation, or if you are in a test kind of a, circumstance, what do you do? What do you say to the Lord? That, Lord, please change my situation, please change this, please change that. No. You just try to remain there. You just try to understand what lessons are coming from there. Or you just try to be there. You keep serving Lord, even in the which is a bad situation, which is a very trying situation for you. What's going to happen to you is you'll get mature. Maturity will come. And once you get the maturity, that spiritual maturity is going to guide you further, and you will not let yourself come into next time into that position that you will be again traumatized. So what happens in life is, what I have seen, and all the learned people have said as well, that until we learn a lesson from some situation, what happens is that situation happens again and again and again. If you don't set the boundaries, if you don't train yourself how to tackle, for example, the World Cup is going on. What's happening? At the quarterfinal stages, now the semi-finals have begun yesterday. What's happening? The ones who have learned the best. So everything, what you do in life is, everything you see, you Krishnized it. Even the World Cup is sort of Krishnized also in my head as well. Whatever little I've read or heard, or I'm going to see now, because after semi-finals, I start taking interest. So what I've seen is the best of the best. What they have learned, what they've been coached on, they don't make those mistakes again. And the ones who are not going to make those mistakes again, they are going to the winner. So this is what we have to do. Otherwise, there is no way we can be coming and still complaining. And another thing I wanted to share, the time is past 9, but I'll try to quickly sum up in 1 or 2 sentences. That most of the people we see around us, and sometimes we as devotees as well, even if we think that we have learned a lot of things, we end up complaining. And you must have seen there are some people who complain and complain constantly, that God has given them so much material opulence, God has given them good health and good family, but still they just can't help it. What it is, those people, they say in psychology, they have learned to thrive on their stress. So there's a part in the brain which works on stress. That you must have heard the flight and fight syndrome. This is what happens, isn't it? Something bad happens in life, we quickly come in fight, or either we're going to fight or flight. So if we keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, what's going to happen is, every time something is going to be there, you are going to complain quickly, because they have learned to just live on stress hormones only. But only they can change themselves by not letting your speech or your thinking go towards the stress, instead bringing it towards some positive thing. Okay, I'm going to do it like this, or think of somebody who is leading the life in a better way. That yes, I'm going to be trying to speak or think in a situation that certain person or certain character in Bhagavatam did. And once you start practicing that, what will happen is that the complaining part will go away and it will be changed. Like Krishna says, abhyas hi kauntaya, isn't it? He says you have to practice. So endeavor in the right direction, but practice. And practice is going to take us ultimately to the topmost place which our souls are really, really hankering for, which is Golok Vrindavan. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you all so much. Wonderful inputs. And we'll catch up again on Friday. So thank you. Ganthrashim Bhagavatam ki jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaurav Hari Hari. Hare Krishna everyone.
Thank you all so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.